Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I am proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So, this little video is one of these things that's like, okay, people, I'll show them a piece of evidence, right? And they'll come back and they'll make a statement and say, no, your evidence doesn't hold up because if that was true, then they'll make their statement, right? And so, this is what I deal with is like, okay, if I show you one piece of evidence, I agree that most of the evidence I show you, and when I say this most of it, it means most of it. Most of the evidence I show you, you can put up a rebuttal against it when we're talking about one piece of evidence. It's just one piece of evidence. Now, there are a few things that I put forth, and then what happens is those people that try and make a rebuttal and stuff, then they don't make any rebuttal. Not when I put, there's certain things I put up that they have nothing to say. And then they don't come back and ever acknowledge that, hey, that was impressive. That was actually something that was different. And actually, when you look at it, there's no context in where those words should have been spoken and stuff, right? So this is what I deal with a lot. So I'm going to show you this piece, and I'm going to come back and show you other things. And but so on this one, this is Evan Ross. This is Diana Ross's son. So there's a lot of things about like Evan Ross. Like one of the things, like people would say, like that. A lot of people think that Michael Jackson is the actual father of Evan Ross, right? And but one of the things about that is because what they're seeing some of the similarities, that they see some of Michael in Evan. Okay, but if Michael Jackson's actually Diana Ross's son, well then that's why you would see some of the similar characteristics in Evan and Michael Jackson, because they both have the same mother, right? So that's what they're actually seeing. But the hardest thing is that the Michael Jackson being part of the Jackson family, this is like it's so hard for me to overcome this, and it's why it's so powerful and why it works so much and why they were able to put out this information of what I show you. The reason they were able to put it out and reason Michael and Diana were able to have the relationship of what they had, it was because that the Michael Jackson was part of the Jackson family. That there's no doubt about it. I'm not contradicting the evidence to say that Michael was raised in the Jackson household from a baby, from as early as maybe literally when he came out of the hospital, he directly went to the Jackson's house. Like it literally can be that early. Okay, so when you can prove that he came out of the hospital and went to the Jackson's house, right, and then he was raised in the Jackson house the whole time, and he's like a Jackson, it's like, man, that is some hard evidence for me to overcome, right? And I agree, I understand why people are very reluctant to look at my story, because one of the most provable facts that we know about Michael Jackson is that he was raised in the Jackson house. You know, he lived with them his whole life. Why would we not believe that he's a Jackson, right? And so people, what they don't understand is how powerful that piece of information is. It's powerful, but it doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean that Catherine and Joe are Michael Jackson's parents. It just means that Michael Jackson, as soon as he was a baby, it proves that at the youngest age that we know of, Michael was raised by the Jacksons. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But it does not mean that he was their child. It can mean that Michael was given to them at the time of birth, that he was given to them. And because of the situation, he was given to them in a way where he's their child. They wanted them to raise him like he was their child. That's the way the situation was going to be. And that's what they all did. And everybody just lived it that way. And then when Michael's got the talent, and that talent takes the Jackson family to Motown and takes them to Hollywood and become big stars, why would any of the Jacksons do anything to disrupt the belief that Michael's a Jackson? Why would any of the Jacksons do anything to stop that from being known, right? So I mean, what it is, the information and stuff, it's really tricky. So one of the things that I show as a piece of evidence that I show here where they ask Evan, there's a part here where they say about Michael and Diana being in a relationship, and Evan's saying he asks his mom about this stuff, and he says his mom always says no. And so what people said to me was, when I say this is a good piece of information here, but I say they contradicted on one thing, and they say, well, is Diana the mother? Is she really going to tell Evan who she's sleeping with and stuff? And it's like, okay, well, I can see your point there. It's a valid point. It holds up as one little single individual point. But I'm going to show you the larger picture. Why it's like, no, she would not say no. That's the one thing that she would not say. And I'm going to show you the proof to prove that all she would say, it's like, oh yeah, me and Michael, we were in a relationship, you know, but it never got serious. She could say a number of different things. But the one thing that she would not say, if her and Michael were in some form of a relationship, the one thing that she would not ever say is no. No, that's not the way it would come out. And I'm going to prove to you that that's the way it be. So like, listen to how Evan speaks here, and listen how, when he talks about Michael, how he says, Michael's like a brother to me. We were like brothers. And my mom was like a mother to him. And see, this thing is, Evan doesn't know. Evan doesn't know that Diana is Michael's mom. He doesn't know that because he knows, just like everybody else knows, that Michael was raised in the Jackson house, right? So there's no reason for him to even have a thought that Diana is Michael's mom. They just don't even have that thought. It never comes into their head, because why would you ever think that? Because we know that Michael was raised in the Jackson house. So Evan doesn't even know what's going on, right? And so this is him. This is one of those things where he's directly in contact with these people. He's got a real significant personal relationship, and he can see that there's something there, and he knows how his relationship is with Michael. They're like brothers, and he knows that Diana's like a mother to Michael. But he doesn't understand what the real relationship is. So let's get into this a little bit.
Never really.
So Michael was your godfather?
Yeah, I'm sure he was. I think he was a godfather to a bunch of people. But more than anything, he was just, he was a close family member to me. We were like, somewhat like brothers, you know what I mean? I think my mom was kind of like a mother figure to him as well.
Mm-hmm. So when people... Are you ever sensitive to like the people speaking on Michael Jackson and or his relationship with your mom? Because I know like a lot of people thought, we knew she was like a mother figure to him, but people also thought like he loved her.
I think so. I think it was a lot of things. I think he did. I know he loved her, and I think he also maybe was in some sort of way. My mom always says no, it wasn't, but I feel like he was. There was so much about my mother he loved.
So that was like the thing. Is like, see, he could see it. He knows Michael loved his mother. They know it. And then even the reporter guy, the other guy there, said, we all know that Diana was like a mother figure to Michael. We know that. But they're all saying, but is this other thing? Because their relationship continued for so long, and it was so personal. There was something else there, that the relationship between them, there was more love. There was real love. There was something close, and so the people were like, well, there's something more than like just this mothering thing of what we're seeing. There's this other part of the relationship. But what it is because she's the mother and she'd abandoned Michael, and that Michael was the only child of Diana Ross's her first love, the first love that she had with Smokey Robinson. And then Michael got spawned off of that. But then all of these other events got spawned because Diana got pregnant and then she gave the child away. It spawned all these other things, right? And then, like, one of those things is that Michael goes to the Jacksons. They formed the band, the Jackson 5, which never would have happened. There would never, ever be a band known as the Jackson 5 if Michael wasn't given to the Jackson house. If Diana doesn't get pregnant, if she doesn't abandon her child to the Jacksons, there's no Jackson 5. That doesn't exist, right? So, and then the admiration for Diana looking at the talent of Michael Jackson. Like, this is like that love thing of what's going on, right? And all you got to understand, too, is that Michael Jackson, when he was a child, before he finds out, like when Michael's with the Jackson 5 and they're starting to tour and stuff, they're learning all the groups, the music acts that are out there. So Michael would have known who Diana Ross was. Like, who would have been like the most beautiful like woman out there? It literally could have been somebody like Diana Ross, that Michael might have looked at her like she's the most beautiful woman in the world. The next thing you know, a few years later, that woman that Michael's been admiring is Diana Ross, the singer of the Supremes. She's at Motown she's got all these hit songs, like all this stuff. So Michael knows who she is. He's admiring her. It's like, God, she's incredible, right? And then a few years after that, she's telling Michael that she's his mother. Like, the dynamic of that relationship. And that's what we see when everybody's seeing this real love that's going on, this fondness. It's this whole dynamic. Plus, they're keeping it a secret. So they've got this secret. There's this weird dynamic that's taking place, which people can see that there's something going on, but nobody really understood what it actually was, right? And so, like I said, I tell people, I said, look Evan says right there that Diana says no. And so people would say to me, that people would say to me, oh, well, would Diana really confide in her son about her sexual relationships? And it's like, well, I understand your point. That's an argument, you know? But it's like, but we're talking about something different now. And so, like I said, if Diana and Michael were actually in a relationship, and when she proclaims that their love is so real and nobody can do anything about it, at the point of where Evan inquires about it, she would just clearly say, yeah, me and Michael had a relationship, but we were obviously not going to have a relationship where we were going to get married. It was just kind of this thing that happened. We were in a little, she would just say something like, yeah, we had a relationship a little bit, but we never got married. We were never going to get married or anything like that. You know, it wasn't that kind of, there's something, but she would not. The one thing she would not say, which I'm going to show you this video, after she proclaims her love to Michael Jackson in this video, there's no way that she would ever tell Evan no. No, she says no. He said she always says no. That's the answer. She says no, which means no, there's nothing there. There was not a relationship. When you're talking about in the context of relationship, it's not there. That's why Diana easily could just say, no, that's not what it was. So look at here where Diana is proclaiming her love to Michael publicly. In the public, on an interview, she's publicly proclaiming, we're in love, there's nothing you could do about it. But then later on, she's telling Evan, no, we were not in a relationship, no. She's telling him no. It's like, what do you mean? So listen to this part.
Tell me, on your new album, some superstars playing on that, Michael Jackson, of course,
Yes.
Bee Gees. How did this collaboration come about?
Well, I've been thinking about Barry Gibb for a long time. I really like him. Now, Michael and I, we're in love, and there's nothing to do about it. There's nothing to say.
So look at it. So Michael and I are in love. There's nothing you can do about it, nothing to say. So, I mean, she totally just telling you we're in love. So she's acting like at this time that they're in a relationship, okay? That they're having some form of relationship, and she's proclaiming it to the world. We are in love, nothing you could do about it, nothing you could say about it. But then when Evan asks her later about them being in a relationship, she flat out says no. So why would she be in this position where she's so proudly advocating this love towards Michael Jackson publicly where it's being videotaped to the world, proclaiming this love? But then when he asks her, she says no. She doesn't say, oh, we had a relationship, but, that's all, I don't want to really talk about it. Or she could say anything, but the word no would not come out of her mouth. And that's what I'm trying to say. The word no would not come out of her mouth unless that they're not having a relationship. But if they're not having a relationship, and then she's proclaiming this kind of love towards Michael, what is it then? And that's why I just try and get people, well, look at it the context that if she's his actual mother, like the same thing as what Evan was saying. My mom's always been a mother figure. Me and Michael's like a family member. That's what they're taught. That's what he actually, because that's what it actually was. That's what he actually saw. The other thing, he could see that there was this other love, there's this other thing, but he doesn't understand that story. He doesn't know what's going on there because they can't tell people the true story that Diana's actually Michael's mom. They can't tell people that story. So what they do is they have a relationship, and this is the way they talk about it in public and stuff, because they show so much affection towards each other, because they both do have so much affection towards each other. Because like I said, Michael is the only child of Diana's relationship to Smokey. That's her connection to Smokey, and she looks at Michael with such admiration, like she's like, man, me and Smokey had one kid, and look at how that kid turned out. Right now, and then that kid, she gave the kid away. The kid comes back on his own with his talent and finds her on his own and comes back to Motown, and he's just ripping it up. Right? That's how she looks. That's the love that she's talking. She is in love with that kid because that's the kid of the relationship she had with Smokey. And she gave him away and he came back. And so she's like, God is working in weird ways. So that's the love, the real love that you're seeing in her proclaiming of this relationship to the public, that we're together, nothing you can do about it. Yeah, they are. There is something. They're back reunited. This weird event has occurred. And people have seen the essence of the nature of what's going on, but nobody could ever understand what it is because we know that Michael was raised in the Jackson house. But once you get to the point where you just ask the question, well, could Diana be Michael's mom? Once you look at it from that lens and you start understanding the context of the information that's out there and the actual facts and evidence, and then you start seeing, whoa, actually, yeah, that is the relationship and the dynamic of what we're seeing in this relationship. So let me show you this other part. Got a couple other pieces here, so let me see which one I'm going to show you. Okay, let's show you this one first here. Okay, so same thing here. Michael's going to talk about being in a relationship with Diana again. And now this is like the Evan Ross stuff, you know, when he was born before this. So that's what I'm trying to say. So the relationship that Michael would have supposedly had with Diana at the time of where Evan Ross would have been born and stuff, like, and then what would have led up to, like, because what the fans say is that Diana Ross went and married Arnie Ness, and which is the father of Evan Ross. Okay, so when Diana went and married Arnie Ness, people say that Michael was really mad at Diana because they were in a relationship, and Michael was really mad that Diana went and married Arnie Ness, and that's what got Michael then to write the song Dirty Diana. Okay, so then this is like in 93, 93. So this is after that, all that stuff, all the real heavy relationship stuff with Michael and Diana. This is in 93, right? So let's hear Michael talking about Diana. He's still talking about her, though.
Do you go out? Do you date?
Yes.
Who do you date?
Well, right now it's Brooke Shields. That's well.
And like, just one thing quick, I can show you the Brooke Shields interview where she talks about losing her virginity to Dean Cain, who played Superman on a Smallville TV series, the Dean Cain. She talks about when she was in a relationship with Dean Cain, and the relationship when she talks about losing her virginity to Dean Cain, that was after the relationship where she was really heavily dating Michael Jackson and stuff, right? So she says she doesn't even lose her virginity to where she lost it to Dean Cain, but that was after the Michael relationship, okay? So what she tells you there is that her and Michael had never had sex. So whatever was taking place, transpiring in that relationship with Michael and Brooke Shields, it was not sexual, right? And then so Michael's still here. This is like 10 years after that. Michael's still, and then you got Brooke then. She was in that relationship with Dean Cain, lost her virginity to that. She started having real relationships. And then Michael is still invoking her name because Michael and Brooke have a deal that Brooke knows she's in the public eye. She knows for her name to be spoken of by a person like Michael Jackson makes her like attractive. And that's the whole part of being an actor. You need to be like thought of as being attractive and being like desired by the public. That's the game they play in Hollywood. That's what they do. That's a big, so for Brooke Shields to ever have Michael Jackson invoking her name as some kind of a beauty that he dates, that's just beneficial to her. Right? And that's why she allows it to go on, because they are real friends and she benefits off of it too, right? That's why she always allowed it to go on, and that's why Michael would always invoke her name. These people, there's only few people that Michael actually really trusted.
We try not to just be everywhere and go. It's mostly at home. She'll come over, I'll go to her house, because I don't like going out in the public.
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
With Brooke Shields?
Yes, and another girl.
And another girl? I'm going to ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you a virgin?
How could you ask me that question?
So even Oprah said, I'm going to ask you this, and it's embarrassing me for to even ask you this, you know? And are you a virgin? And then see, that's the thing, is because what you got to understand in the context of this situation, Oprah's around Hollywood and all the Hollywood elite people, right? So Oprah, and remember, she's doing interviews. She was like a TV host person who does interviews and digs for information. She's like a media type of person. And then she would have known about the Jacksons and then the stories and stuff. But there would have been a part where she was curious to try and figure out. And when she's leading up into doing this interview, she's trying to figure out, because this is 1993. And so Oprah's like, man, there's just no evidence of Michael having any relationships. She's like, I can't find it. You gotta understand, she's in Hollywood. She would have inquired around the Hollywood scene and asked people, do you know anybody that's had sex with Michael Jackson? Because if she had asked these questions, and if she had had even one reliable source tell her, oh no, I had sex with Michael Jackson, you know? And that's the way it would have been. If Michael Jackson was actually in Hollywood, if he had sexual relationships with Diana Ross, Remember, she's a woman. And see how he's all embarrassed here? If Michael Jackson had been having a relationship with a much older woman, this childlike behavior and stuff, this innocenceness thing, that what you see, which appears to be maybe a virgin, which Oprah couldn't understand what it was. She thought it was a virgin. Later on, she transformed it into that Michael was a pedophile. Because nobody understood the true nature, and people see the real essence of what it is. And Oprah knew, because she's in the Hollywood scene, Oprah knows that there's no evidence of Michael having sex. Oprah could not have asked this question. It's not a question that she would just ask because he seems shy. The only reason that Oprah could possibly ask a question like that is if she had inquired around Hollywood and she never got a positive response saying that she knew somebody that Michael had sexual relationships with. So first she asked him, who are you dating? And then he gives the Brooke Shields thing. But Oprah would have known more of the story about Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields is a big star too. Oprah would have known, no, Brooke Shields has relationships with people. So Oprah knew that was bullshit. And then so instantly she then called him out on it because it was bugging her. And so she asks him the question, are you a virgin? Is that what the fuck is going on here? She's like, what is going on? She knows Michael's full of shit. There's no way possible. And like how Michael says, how can you ask me that question? Because and Michael had said, you can ask me anything. But when it came to that question, what does he say? How? He doesn't say, why did you ask me that? Do I seem weird? No, he says, how? How could you ask me that? How is it even possible? Because Michael's been in a lot of interviews and stuff, and people don't ask him that question. But she did. And so if Michael had been in a relationship with a much older woman like Diana Ross, and he says, yeah, and another woman, so we're saying that he's saying he's had sex with at least 2 women. If Michael had sex with at least 2 women, one of them which being Diana Ross, a much older woman, he wouldn't have this childlike behavioral pattern of what we see that does exist in him. Something's wrong here. And so nobody knows what it is and stuff. And so listen to this other part, what he says right here.
I just want to know.
I'm a gentleman.
You're a gentleman.
I'm a gentleman.
So
I'm a gentleman.
So, okay, I would interpret that to mean that means that you believe that a lady is a lady, and therefore...
That's something that's private. I mean, shouldn't be spoken about openly. You can call me old-fashioned if you want, but, to me that's very personal.
So you're not going to answer it.
I'm embarrassed.
So you're not going to answer it.
See? So you're not going to answer it. She's like, you're not answering the question. Now, if Michael was a gentleman, all he would have to say is, look at Oprah, I'm 35 years old, whatever he is at this time. He'd be like, I'm 35 years old. I'm a huge rock star. I'm adored by millions of women. Obviously, Oprah, I'm not a virgin, but because I am such a big star, and for me to even, if there's any speculation about me having relationships with women, it brings a huge amount of attention towards these women, which I don't think is fair. See how Michael, if he's actually just a normal person, he could have given a great, brilliant answer. And then that would have, boom, nobody would have ever asked Michael Jackson if he was a virgin again, but he didn't answer. And she's like, you're not answering. You're not going to answer it. Because Oprah does interviews. She's not stupid. She understands he dodged the question. He didn't answer the question. She's straight out, you didn't answer the question. I asked you one simple, direct question. Are you a virgin? You're like a 35-year-old man and you can't even answer a simple, direct question. Are you a virgin? When all he has to say is, look, I'm definitely not a virgin, but I'm a big star and I don't like to bring attention to that. It's unnecessary towards any woman that I want to have just a friendship with. It's not fair to them for people to be speculating that we're having love relations. It's just not fair. So like I like to be a gentleman about this stuff, and I like to keep it quiet. That's it. Nobody would have ever asked him, are you a virgin again? Nobody would have even speculated to think that he was a virgin. It couldn't have been possible. But after this, not only does it show that he is a virgin, it shows that he can't answer these questions. There's weird, and when he tries to cover it up, he has to invoke names like with Brooke Shields and like Diana Ross. He invokes their kind of names and stuff, and then he says, well, I'm a gentleman and stuff, right? So this is what he invokes, this shyness thing, and tries to portray this image of being like a gentleman, right? And then so here, I destroy that again. This is how easy it is for me to destroy this stuff about what Michael is saying between the reality of the situation of what's occurring. And like I said too, when Michael talks about, like in that one, I don't know if I let it play because he was talking about Brooke Shields enough, but I know right there he was talking about Diana Ross. I don't know if I can't remember, but it was right in that part. I don't know if it played it there and stuff, but he was talking about Diana Ross there too. Like I actually here, let me play it a little bit more. Because here, I think I'll talk about Diana Ross here, just so you can hear he does bring up Diana Ross's name.
Well, we would like to know whether or not there is a possibility that you are going to marry one day and have children.
I would feel that my life isn't complete if I do not, because I adore the family life. I adore children, and I adore that whole thing. And I would love to. That's one of my dreams, but I couldn't right now because I'm married. I am married, but to my work. I'm married to my music, and it has to be that closeness in order to do the kind of work that I want to do. And
so what kind of woman makes you, I know in the video, wait a minute, no, in the video we're going to see later, we're premiering the world video, but you say that there's a line where you talk about being quenched. So what kind of person does that for you?
Quench my desire.
Yeah, quench my desire.
Yeah. Well, Brooke.
Again,
I've always
Brooke,
her.
again.
And when I was little, I used to stay with Diana Ross. Me and my brothers, we stayed with her for years. And I've never said this, I always had a crush on her.
Okay, so, see, now he brings there is I wanted to show you the Diana Ross. Now, he says, I always had a crush on Diana Ross. He says, I always had a crush on her. This is after he's been asked that he's a virgin, right? And I said, I always had a crush on Diana Ross. But Diana Ross is proclaiming in that video, we're in love. There ain't nothing nobody could do about it, right? All this shit, right? And this stuff. And so, it's just like I said, the way it is, he wouldn't be this innocent. And like I said, he's invoking that name Diana Ross. The same thing. So like when Evan Ross asks Diana, what is going on with you and Michael? Michael was bringing her name up too. And he's right there, he said he had a crush on her. And now, people would say, well, why would he say he had a crush on his mother? Well, because right there, Oprah just asked him if he's a virgin. He's not feeling comfortable. Like he said, he's embarrassed and shit, right? He doesn't know. So what he does, he draws to these names, these only people that he really trusts, like people like Brooke Shields and Diana Ross, right? And he invokes their names because he doesn't know how to get out of this. And what he says is, I always had, like I told you, the way he invokes Brooke Shields' name is because it brings admiration and makes her desirable. They're in the public eye, they're stars. That's a beneficial thing to him. So Diana Ross, it was also beneficial to her. She's also a star. She plays this game too. Even though Michael's her son, she likes getting the attention that from the fans, that the fans see that this young, hot Michael Jackson is in love with her, makes her feel young and desirable and attractive. That's what she likes. They're in the entertainment business. That's a beneficial thing. So this is like the dynamic of this relationship, this game that they're playing. But when he says that he's always had a crush on her, like I said, when Michael Jackson was watching Diana Ross of the Supremes before he finds out that she's his mother, why is it not fair to say that he would have actually had a crush on her? So when he says that, I always had a crush on her, well, he probably did. He probably did have a crush on Diana Ross before he finds out that she's his mother. But then, so that's what I'm saying, the relationship, and then after that, Diana's hugging on him and loving him and giving him attention. He's got Diana Ross of the Supremes giving him love and affection and attention, like in a way. So there's the weird dynamic of that relationship is what you see here is what's taking place. That's what you see. Why this is occurring the way it does is because the actual dynamic of the relationship of what has been taking place now for a number of years and stuff, right? But he invoked her name, right? She invoked his name, saying they're in love. But when Evan asks his mom a simple question, she says no. I always ask her, and she always says no. She always says no. She doesn't say, yeah, we were in love, but there was just a thing, She never, nothing like that. She says flat out, no, 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 no. She would not use those words, right? And then the other part of it is that Michael proclaiming to be a gentleman. Right? And so now this is in 1995, and she's going to say right here, this is about a year after he's been married with Lisa Marie. So now, if this is supposed to be his wife, and he's been married for a year, if he's been married for Lisa Marie for a year, that means he has to have fucked her at least 100 times. If you're in the first year of your marriage and you're married to this, and Lisa Marie's a hot piece of ass. She's a tight little ass, and she's horny as fuck. Lisa Marie's a slut. When you actually know about Lisa Marie, when I show you more stuff, it's like, god damn, Lisa Marie was a fucking horny slut. So there's no way that fucking hot ass horny slut Michael would have been fucking her like at least 100 times, and there would have been more. In their first year of their marriage, he would have fucked her every day, basically, maybe a couple times a day. It could have been like, in reality, it might have been 500 times that they had sex, but let's just give it a fair thing to say they're busy and stuff. Let's just say 100 times, right? But come on, there's no way possible it couldn't have been 50 times. So we're saying at this point, after a year of marriage, there's no way possible that they couldn't have been fucking at least 50 times, right? At least, right? But look at them sitting here. They can't even, they've got their hands in their lap like they're 5-year-old kids. It's like if they were a couple 5-year-olds and they're like saying, oh, we're boyfriend and girlfriend and shit, right? And they're sitting there with their hands in their laps. Yeah, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We're going to get married and shit, right? Like a couple little 5-year-old kids. This is not how a couple who's been married for a year would act. They wouldn't act this way. Then they're going to show the actual marriage, and I'm going to show you. There's no way that Michael can proclaim himself to be a gentleman if he took Lisa Marie Presley to this place and married her in the fashion of which he did.
We will take you there a year ago, right?
Yes.
Just about exactly.
I look like an idiot, I can tell you that.
You don't look like an idiot. You look more like a, no.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
See, Michael's not even looking at her, and when you look, he's actually chewing on gum. If you watch, he's actually chewing on gum, but he can't even look at her. They're taking their wedding vows right here. Look at, they're not dressed up, they're not dressed in proper attire, and he's chewing on gum.
And then he asks for his autograph.
How is this a fashion of a gentleman? They're taking their wedding vows. He's not even looking at her, and he's chewing on gum.
Right, but now we're out of time.
This is not a gentleman.
Congratulations, and then we're going to do the
Okay, so right there they're doing the vows, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, when you watch it, it's just like, it's so ridiculous. He can't look at her. They're like, okay, do the vows, you tell her you love her, and then he's like, he's looking at the guy, he's not looking at her. He's not like, I love you. That's what you do when you're getting married if you're a gentleman. I mean, and this is Lisa Marie Presley. They're going to be in a little room like this, not dressed. Where's her wedding dress? Where's his tux? How does he proclaim himself to be a gentleman? So that washes all of that out too. It washes it all out. And when you get past to see that everything that the public has been fed is a lie, it's a scam, it's a lie. They're putting the thoughts in your head to get you to think of them the way they want you to think of them, because they don't ever want you to know the truth of the relationships and the dynamics of what are actually taking place here, is that Michael is actually the son of Diana Ross. That's the relationship, the true love that was taking place between them. That's why Michael was still a virgin at that time, because he was so damaged when Diana told him the truth. That's why he was not pressured by his brothers when his brothers are trying to get him to have sex as they're growing up and they're Jackson 5. They got all the groupies around. If you're the part of the brothers, you would have to do it. You would have sex with the groupies, but none of that stuff ever happened and stuff, because Michael wasn't part of the Jacksons. That he knew he was not their brothers, so he was always just doing his own thing because he was not pressured by them and stuff, right? All of the real evidence shows the real truth and stuff, but people just have to get past the simple fact that Michael was raised in the Jackson house. But that's because he was abandoned by his real parents, a 14-year-old Diana Ross and an 18-year-old Smokey Robinson. And it was occurring right at the time that Motown was being developed, so they had to get rid of that kid so that Berry Gordy could turn Smokey Robinson into the artist of what he did. And you can see then after that how it progressed into what we see today, and showing all the effects and the things of what I show you in this video and stuff, right? Okay, so I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.